And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror. And welcome back to Slasher Fest, where I'm showing off a few of my little indie, out-of-the-way, less talked about slashers that I happen to love. And tonight we're going to move on with no surprise, because it's in the title, and that is Party Hard and Die Young. This is another one of those that does not have a Blu-ray release, so I had to get it. Yes, they spend all the money to make a really cool glow-in-the-dark slipcase, but won't release a Blu-ray. That makes a lot of sense. It makes the kind of sense that doesn't, so please make it make sense. In any event, hopefully both of these will end up, this and All My Friends Are Dead, maybe it'll end up in the $5 bin so I can get extra copies, because, you know, all you have to do is sneeze at a DVD and it will just turn into a coaster and stop working for no reason whatsoever. Whereas a Blu-ray, I can like, oh, I hate you, I want you, the thing won't break. I have found, if you need this advice, the best way to take care of a Blu-ray that you want to destroy is you find a sharp end of like a coffee table or something, and you do that, and it will shatter into 1,000 pieces, little shards, and then you can spend 15 minutes cleaning up and going, I have a temper, don't I? Yeah, you do. Now pay for it. Clean. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Sweep real good, too. Next time you go into the bathroom, you will end up with a shard of CD in your foot. So, yeah, we all have, to get it out, so to speak. But, like I said, DVDs, though, man, they'll just go dead for no reason at all. You take them on the shelf, you haven't watched them in 5 years, you put it in, it goes, there's nothing here, it's dead. No scratch, no blemish, no cut, no nothing, it's just dead. It's a coaster. So, yeah, it's true that movies that I like that have no Blu-ray release, if I don't get a boot of them, I will usually pick up an extra copy if I really, really like the movie, and can find it for $2 or $3. I'll grab an extra copy. I know I see Severance. Catch Hell is another one. The one with the sniper, Downrange, got 2 copies of that. So I'll buy extra DVD copies of stuff that they just refuse to give a Blu-ray release to, just in case I look at the DVD the wrong way one day and it just stops working. Because if they run out and you can't find it, then all of a sudden you're paying $30 for a DVD, and I'm not going to do that. So while they're $5, grab them. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, this movie... This movie is set in Croatia at X-Jam, which is a real techno-rave event. And we are introduced to some of our little group, which is Julia, Jacob, Denise, Boji, Jessica, Cheesy, Sammy, Lukey, and Lexi, and Carmen. I think there's a couple of others, but, because it's a graduating class. Jessica, and Julie have been best friends all through school, and everybody's now graduated. They're going to be heading off to college. So they've came to Croatia to party at X-Jam. So they are introduced to Felix and Leo, who are the team members who have been assigned to their group. They're sort of like, give them advice. Where do you go here? What do you do that? They're like, you want to say chaperones, but they're not chaperones because they didn't come with them. They're just the team that is assigned to them to give them any assistance on the island if they need any, right? So we are then introduced to all of these people, and once again, like All My Friends Are Dead, it's very, very social media heavy. You see a lot of text and snaps, and a lot of the visuals are through the phone, through the mobile, and stuff like that. So, but it's all done very, very professionally, very well. Is it a Shudder original? Yeah. It's filmed very, very well. I love the music in this movie, because I love techno rave music. So all aggressive music. I like aggressive music, heavy metal, punk, grunge. But I also like techno rave, which is aggressive. I even like bluegrass, which, believe it or not, bluegrass is a very aggressive form of music. It's like Slayer on a banjo. You know what I mean? So I love the music in this. I like the atmosphere too, because it's just a big party atmosphere. You have all of these huge dances and dance clubs and lots of pretty people. You know what I mean? There's lots of pretty people to slow motion through, you know. And you have the boys gone wild and the girls gone wild scenes, you know, flashing boobs and boys flashing butts and stuff. So you get a little eye candy, not a lot, not a super hot. It's not a major focus, but you get to see a little bit. So it's just actually, the first act is like a really fun time getting to know all of these people, and their various weirdnesses and who you like and don't like and stuff like that. Now, the first murder, Julia's been hiding sort of a secret, and that is that she's not going to go to college, where Julia's going to college, but she hasn't told her yet. So, at the party, at one of the various parties, Boji, I think it is, lets the cat out the bag. Julia gets very mad and runs off. And, Jessica gets very mad and runs off. And Julia, gets wasted and is like on the way home. She thinks she sees her in the woods and that somebody takes her. But she thinks maybe it was a hallucination or something. She wakes up the next morning and she's gone. You never see her again. Well, until, they find her. But, so she's taken by this weird looking guy. Sort of like All My Friends Are Dead, got a weird mask. And, so she's missing. Nobody really takes her seriously, though. One of the other girls even gets a, text from her saying, I'll be back when I've run out of condoms or something like that. So, but Julia's like, she wouldn't write anything like that. She's a virgin. She wouldn't do anything like that. So nobody will take her seriously. So we get to the first murder, which really sets off, because I'm going to talk about these three acts. We get to the first, murder, and that's Denise is tricked by getting a message from Julia to meet her up on the roof of this club. And she goes up there. We see the killer. He attacks, good chase scene. Girl tries a little parkour, but you know what? You just don't have it. Yeah. So she tries a little parkour to get away, but it don't work. And she ends up falling and getting skewered, impaled on this decoration in the middle of a dance floor. And the first shift of this movie occurs at this time. It's all been fun and games and boobs and butts up until this point. You know what I'm saying? The whole tone of this movie changes. It really is like it goes from bright and bubbly to anxious and what's going on. But then again, a dead girl skewered in the middle of a dance floor will have that, will tend to do that to a atmosphere, I think. So Denise is tricked up to the club where she is thrown off, impaled on the dance floor. The cops question everybody, very dismissive. They say it's an accident, the parkour thing I was telling you about. Julia gets a snap with Denise's face X'd out. And it disappears before she can show anybody, but, that's a clue. But so she takes all this information to the cops again, who are again very, very dismissive about all of this. The next kill is Luki, who, because they're asked if anybody wants to leave. I mean, this is one of your friend group. One of them's missing, and one of them was just impaled on the dance floor. If any of you want to go home, we'll set you up. So Luki is the only one who says that he wants to go home. So, But then they say the ferry is full, but then a little bit later he gets a text message saying that there's room and to go to the ferry thing. So he gets tricked into going there, where he is abducted by this killer. And we see his torture scene, which is pretty brutal, culminating with him getting a beer bottle shoved down his throat. And then the guy cuts the thing that was holding him up, which makes him fall face first on the floor with that beer bottle in his mouth, which goes through his head. So there you go. It's a little mental imagery for you. Very interesting kill. So nobody knows that, except, of course, Julia does get a snap of Lukey with his face X'd out. So, they're all getting very concerned, as well they should. They start suspecting, well, now they pretty much know that their class is being targeted. This isn't just random, because there's thousands of people on the island at this party. Why is it 3 of their group is dead? So they get all paranoid and they start suspecting Cheesy of being the one who did it, because Julia finds all of their phones, Lukey, Denise, and Jessica's phone underneath his bed, which, that could have been easily planted. But at the time, she freaks out. Everybody blames him. He gets arrested. And they end up thinking that it's him. Next clue. They realize that the pics, that she's been receiving of the X'd out faces are actually all from a single photograph. And they realized that it was from a camp photo that they had taken 2 years ago at a summer camp. And another person in that photo was a girl named Anna. And they're like, has anyone ever kept up with Anna? And one of them doesn't have Facebook, the other one does. So she goes and looks, and one of them still happened to be friends with Anna from 2 years ago. And they go and look at her page and see that she hasn't posted in like 4 or 5 months. And so they're like, well, what happened to her? Then when they read the post, they start realizing that she's dead. Supposedly topped herself. Flashbacks to All My Friends Are Dead here. So once they kind of realize that, they start saying, well, it wasn't Cheesy. Because you see, Sammy, he had been asking them about Anna. So they start suspecting that it's Sammy, not Cheesy. So you have a little switch. Meanwhile, Lexi, who is in Leo's room, because like they're all running from Sammy now. They think that Sammy is actually the one who did it, or has something to do with it. So they're all trying to hide from Sammy. Lexi has went into Leo's room. Remember, one of the team leaders? While she's in there, and he tells her to stay there and lock herself in, she snoops around and she finds Anna's diary. Why is Anna's diary in this guy in Croatia's? You know what I'm saying? She starts reading it, and she finds out that night where that picture was taken at that camp, they played Truth or Dare. The dare was for her to go into a closet with a bag over her head, a smiley face bag like that, and wait for someone to come in and guess who it was. That was the thing. What they didn't realize is that the 2 guys, well, their names will come up in a minute, Andy and Jacob. When Andy and Jacob went into the room, they actually stop whining, it's already in there. They actually do it. They assaulted her. But the rest of them, even though they didn't know that's what was going on in there, they still didn't give a shit enough to check on her when she came back out. The two dudes came out, everything was cool. She came out, nobody asked her if she was alright, they were all too busy partying in that room. Or, partying in the living room, having no idea that this happened. So, she reads all of this in the diary. She goes out the room and she sees Leo coming, and she starts running to find them because she knows now Leo is Anna's older brother. He's her brother. And this has all been one big giant setup to get these people. Well, she manages to get to the dance club, where all of them are at, Julia and the rest of them, Boji and all of them. They're all there, and then she runs in, but right before she can get to them, everybody hears a bunch of screaming and stuff, and that's because Leo got to her first, and he split her from ear to ear in the middle of the dance floor. And because it was techno raving and all anybody knew now was that there she was sprawled out on the floor with her throat cut and blood everywhere. So, and no diary. So, everybody's super scared now. And then Boji and Julia see Leo, and he's like, what happened? What happened? Like he didn't know. What happened? What happened? And they're like, oh my God, she's been killed and we think it's Sammy and Sammy's after us. And he's like, well, come with me and I'll take you and hide you. So they get in the truck with him and they take off. Meanwhile, Sammy is up there going, no, don't go with him. Stay. So they take off and they're going down the road. He hands them, y'all need to calm down. Here's a drink of water. Yeah. Okay. And so they take big swallows of water, and then she notices that there's something in the back of the truck, moving. She hears something, but it's too late because Leo has just drugged the shit out of them, right? So Julia passes out in the back seat, and then Boji is trying to talk to him, and he opens up the glove box, and there's that mask, that mask. And Leo, and he's like, well, I don't understand what's going on. And he's like, just go to sleep, Boji. So then Boji and her wake up in this warehouse. And there's this big open hole dug. But Andy and Jacob are tied up there too. So they're all duct taped and shit. So Leo starts letting it all out, right? That was my sister. Y'all did this to her. So it was those two guys that did it. Now, Julia and Boji had no idea. They know all these people. They didn't know those two did that to her back then. So, it's sort of well, why are you hurting me then? Sort of like that. But you know how in slashers, guilt by association is rule number 1. Right. Not all camp counselors was the reason Jason drowned, you know what I'm saying? But in the mind of a killer, guilt by association is rule number 1. So, this movie gets really, really, well, like I said, I'm going to talk about these chapters, but, so, he starts playing truth or dare with them, Boji, are you in love with Julia? Oh, if you're not going to answer, then he stabs him through the back. And you're like, well, that was a harsh punishment for not answering the question. Then he tries to suffocate Julia. And then it gets where I have never seen it go before. To go where no film has gone before. And that is, and I remember the first night I watched it. The first time I watched, because this was actually the third time that I've watched this movie. I've had it for a couple months. This is the third time I've watched this movie. But I remember the first night I saw it when he walked over there, because now Boji is supposedly dead and Julia's sitting there tied up on her side and she's looking that way. He goes over there and he grabs Jacob, and they're not hog-tied, but they're tied in a manner that their feet are together, duct taped, their hands are together, duct taped, but they're up to where their knees are towards their chest type thing. And so he spins him around and he's like, let me see that pretty ass. Let's see that pretty ass of yours. And I was like, what's up with that? And why do you have a big Corona bottle in your hand? I'm like, this is fixing to get I don't think I've ever seen that before. So he spins him around, and they're showing all of this, right? So he spins him around. He pulls his pants down, and he grabs Andy's hand, and he puts the big, extra long Corona bottle in it, and he up the old kazoo it went, and it's and you're like, I don't think I have ever seen that in a horror movie before. It's very original, you know what I mean? So it doesn't kill him or anything, but I bet they wish that it had. But so then he takes it out and he spins him back around, and he grabs his hand and he spins Andy around, pulls his down, and does it the same thing, And when Andy is like, no, please don't believe, please don't, no. He's like, he says what they said to her in that closet, which was, just shut up. It's already in there now. And I'm like, okay, this was too much, man. That was good. Karmic for real. You know what I mean? So after he has done the business, you're kind of left shocked, and he rolls them over and he pushes them in that hole. And then he goes and grabs Julia, and she's still kind of asking the obvious, and that is, she was only at our school for a few months. I never even spoke to her. I don't even, yeah, but you were there. You were there in that room having your little party. You didn't give a shit. It's a very weak justification for just being pissed off killer, in my opinion. I mean, with them anyway, not the others. So he starts fighting with her, and because he's going to make her bury them, right? So he starts throwing rocks in there, and she refuses. So he ends up fighting with her, whacking her, and throwing her in there. So he starts burying all three of them. When all of a sudden, remember Sammy back at the resort, screaming at them not to go with him? He had followed them. And he comes running in there, and he bashes him in the back of the head, and he goes in the hole. And then Julia is trying to climb out, and the only thing that she could find to get any traction was a piece of the broken bottle, right, that Sammy had just cracked him in the skull with. So she had picked it up, and she was trying to use it as traction to climb up. It was like that pit in Silence of the Lambs. So she was trying to climb up that when he woke up, because she didn't trust Sammy. Remember, they thought Sammy, and she was screaming at him, what did you have to do with this? Because one of the boys is don't trust Sammy, he's a psycho too, he's with him in this. So she asked him, and he's like, no, I'm not really. He just told me not to tell you anything about Anna, and he was asking questions about the group. That's all that I know about it. So he really was innocent. So she's trying to climb her way up when that dude wakes back up. Leo wakes back up, and he runs her there, and he grabs her by the leg, scares her pretty badly, and she just turns around, and in one swift motion, she just puts that big piece of broken glass right across him, and he falls back and bleeds to death. And you're like, that was good. That was good. That was a good karmic ending. So Sammy helps her up, and it turns out Boji is still alive as well, even though he's got this big knife sticking out of him. He's still alive as well. The two guys, Andy and Jacob, they holler for her, please help us out. And she's like, Get yourselves out, you animals, because you know what she's just found out about them and what they did. So I guess in her mind she thought, well, the guy's dead. Leo is dead, so he's not going to hurt you down there. Let the cops get you out, but I'm just not helping you. Look at the shit you just got me into for your weenies. So we then see the survivors gather, to leave the island. Boji survives. They had found Jessica's body floating all cut up and stuff. Lukey, the one, at the ferry, the one that with the coat of the beer bottle down his throat, no one ever knew what happened to him. They never thought about him again, right? Because they thought he went home. So you have Julia, Boji, Carmen, Cheesy, Andy, Jacob, and Jamie, or Sammy, all survive out of the group. So as they're leaving, what's funny is you see Andy and Jacob, they're over there on stretchers, laying on their stomachs. They're conscious and all, but I imagine their bottoms are a little sore. You know what I mean? So as they all pull off into the ferry and leave, the camera pans down below the water and it goes deep down into the water, and you see Luke these names, man. You see Lukey's body wrapped in chains with that big beer bottle still sticking out of his throat. So I guess somebody will find him one day. And that's the way the movie ended. And I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I liked the storyline. I liked the way the movie was set up, because this movie went from this really colorful, like All My Friends Are Dead, the really colorful rave atmosphere, to like really, really super dark. You know what I mean? The beer bottle thing up the butts was I didn't see that coming. And I honestly, thinking of everything that I've seen, if you've seen it before, put it in the comments, because I don't recall a movie with something like that. Especially how primo karmic that is for a rapist to then be done that to by each other. Because he used their hand holding the bottle to do it. So that was, I liked it. It was pretty cool. That was a little bit of, yeah. Any problems with this movie? There's only one problem with this movie. And that is the English dubbing. This movie is German. So it's in German. It's a German language movie, but it does have a full English dub. The voice actors that they got was not, they were very, very 5 out of 10. But that's okay, because, I speak fluent German. So the first time I watched this was in English. And does the dubbing bother me enough? Because never blame a movie for the dubbing. That's the studio, not the movie. But was it enough to bother me? No, not really. It was something that I noticed, but not enough to really bother me. But of course, the second time I watched it in German, and it also has English subtitles, so you can watch it in German with English subtitles, and French and Spanish too. But so the first time I watched it was in English. The second 2 times I watched it was in German. But yeah, the dubbing is a little weak, but not enough to bother you, really. Pay attention to the movie and the story. The screams were all done correctly. So there's nothing really about it. It's just something I noticed. And only, put it this way, if I didn't speak German, I probably would have just watched it all 3 times in English and not even bothered with subtitles. It's not that bad. But if you have to have some issue with the movie, it would be the dubbing. But I love the way this movie was set up. It got more vicious, more dark. It went from party and fun and smiling to what the hell's going on, and there's a nice little mystery in the background, to, oh my god, there's some serious shit going down with the kills, and that warehouse scene was just primo. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was Party Hard and Die Young from 2018. I do wish there was a Blu-ray release of it, but that's okay. I got it, and that's what matters. I really loved the people in this. It had a lot of... Now, All My Friends Are Dead, that qualifies as a horror comedy, slasher comedy. This does not. There's a lot of smiles in this. Like, Carmen is the only one that's overweight. She's just a little chubby. She's not like really super fat or anything, but she's a little chubby. And there's a scene at the X Jam where they are, they put her name in for the Queen of the X Jam. And you know what that is, right? It's when the guys that were nominated for King, they get up there and show off their muscles and dance. And the girls, they get up there and show off their bikinis and bodies and dance. And somebody had put Carmen's name in it as a joke to humiliate her. And instead, she went up there with her slightly chubby self, and she did some boob work, and she did some bumping and grinding, and she won Queen of the X Jam against all of these skinny little anorexic bikinis. And that was pretty good. So that made you smile. And like I said, a lot of the Girl Gone Wild, Boys Gone Wild, the music is fantastic. So during the first act of this movie, you're really smiling a lot because a lot of really cute stuff happens. But you're not laughing. It's not a comedy. There's no real comedy in this. There's eye rolling and cute stuff and smiley stuff. Then when you start getting to the mystery, it really does interest you. It really is like, what's going on? And then I was definitely not smiling. I was definitely engrossed in the final act when all of the secrets came out and who was doing what to who. And I had a very, very good time. Great kills, great people, lots of good eye candy for both sides. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie. And that's what I love about not being a critic, is that I just love to have fun with movies, and that's all this is just pure fun popcorn slasher. So yeah, if you've never seen this, or you see it somewhere to buy, I would give it a shot. I would give it a chance. I'm sure you could probably find both of these on some of those streaming places. I'm so above it. But I'm sure you can find it on one of those streaming places and check them out. But yeah, I really like this movie. It's really cool. And these are a couple of really cool slashers that I added to my slasher gallery, my slasher oeuvre. Isn't that the oeuvre? But yeah, I definitely added them to my slasher oeuvre, and had a really good time with it, and as I did the others that will come in this little slasher fest of mine. Love you, miss you, bye-bye. Always remember and never forget, if you do know of any like indie slashers that I haven't heard of, sort of like these, just put them in the comments. I will check them out, and I will see you in the next thing I do. Bye-bye.